This is our place, come on in. Our place, so glad you're here. Our place, everybody's welcome. We see God on every face. Love lives here in this place. Welcome to our place, our sweet place.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living, Boulder Valley. I'm Reverend Jody Hill Stevenson, and I'm the Senior Consulting Minister. I cannot believe it's Thanksgiving week. Can you? Oh my gosh. Um, what happened to this crazy, memorable year? We at the Center for Spiritual Living Boulder Valley are part of a worldwide philosophy and organization that actually teaches the inspiring philosophy of the science of mind. Science of mind, the name is confusing, although if you think about it, there is a science in that when we use our minds correctly, our thoughts, we can change our lives. And I've certainly proven it in my life, and I've watched literally millions of people. As we change our beliefs, we change our lives. We also believe in the science of mind philosophy of the power of one, whether it's this tiny little gnat that's out in the world flying around or a big mountain and anything else in between, we're all one. I love that. And that comes from actually ancient wisdom. The great Taoists of so many years ago believed that. But that's a whole different subject, but it's fun to explore. I'm so glad you've joined us. So come on in. We have a great service planned for you, and I look forward to seeing you inside.
Welcome all to CSL Boulder Valley and our service this morning. I am Kathy Nunemaker, practitioner and service for this morning. We have a wonderful service planned for you today. Let's start with an invocation. Grounding into the now, grounding into this present moment, this moment that is God, this moment that is God manifesting through each of us at every moment, and knowing that there really is only one point in time and space, and that point in time and space is God. Oh, knowing that God is here with us, with each one of us this morning, blessing this service, being the divine inspiration for all. I am so grateful. It is a time to open up our hearts, to open up our minds to this deepening of spiritual realization. I am grateful for this time together. I'm grateful for this opportunity. I now release this prayer and say, and so it is. Okay, now it is time in our service to speak our purpose, mission, and vision together. Our purpose, celebrating divinity, embracing humanity, and creating community. Our mission, providing tools and support to awaken our community to its spiritual magnificence. And our vision, inspiring and uplifting every one of us to transform the world. I'm going to bring my candle around to show this. This candle, this lit candle, represents the God essence that is in each one of us, that is the essence of each one of us. Knowing that and remembering that about ourselves, and knowing and remembering that about each person that we meet. I have some readings that I would like to share with you this morning. The first reading is by Mark Nepo. The further I wake in this life, the more I realize that God is everywhere, and the extraordinary is waiting quietly beneath the skin of all that is ordinary. Light is in both the broken bottle and diamond, and music in both the flowing violin and the water dripping from the drainage pipe. Yes, God is under the porch as well as on top of the mountain, and joy is in both the front row and the bleachers, if we are willing to be where we are. The next is by our founder, Ernest Holmes. An attitude of gratitude is most salutary and bespeaks the realization that we are now in heaven. And now, by David Steindl Rast. It is not joy that makes us grateful, but gratitude that makes us joyful. And our final reading, the rain of life's blessings cannot gather on mountaintops of pride, but flow easily into the valleys of humbleness. And that was Yogananda. Okay, it is now time to say our affirmation. You can either say it along with me or just close your eyes and take it in. I'll say the affirmation twice, and then we'll have a moment of silence. I open my mind and my heart to receive the blessing of the divine. I open my mind and my heart to receive the blessing of the divine.
Alleluia, 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 alleluia. We are one now. 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 So we sing Alleluia, 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 Alleluia,
Hallelujah. Thank you, Karen. It's now time to go into prayer. Oh, breathing in the divine essence and knowing that God is here. That God is here right now in this place with each one of us. that God is always here, that God always speaks through us, that there is no place, there is no time, there is no essence that is not God, that God is all there is, that God is the divine within, and that we move through our lives with God, always at our side, always within us, always there guiding us. I know this about myself. I know this about every person who is listening now and who will be listening in the future, that this is the essence of God, always. Oh, this is the essence of every person. And this is the truth of who we are. And knowing this truth and knowing that we are manifesting God at all times, I also know that God does not exist in any lack, that God does not exist in any poor health, that God does not exist in any disease that might be flowing around our world right now, that God is the virus, that God is every illness or anything else that's come into a person's life. And knowing that God is perfection, I also know that bodies regain this perfection, that this perfection is here and is ours at all times. I know that this is the truth. I know that everything that is going on in our seeming world right now has God in harmony with it. That there is this thin veil, this veil that goes into the spiritual realm that is God. Oh, knowing that this spiritual realm is the truth of who we really are. That is the real truth. And everything else is something that we are working through in this life and is working toward the absolute purity, the absolute balance that is God. I know that this is the truth for every person listening. I know that this is the truth for the center. I know that there is an abundance in this world that is amazing. This abundance of love, this abundance of caring, this abundance of connection, this abundance of money, this abundance of joy. That this is God. And I know that this is God, and getting back in touch with this knowledge of knowing brings the peace, brings that joy, brings the assurance, brings the gratitude into our lives. Oh, and it is with great gratitude that I say these words for each person here now, knowing that I speak the words of God, that I speak this divine oneness that's within each one of us. I now release this prayer with the gratitude and with the knowing that this is a divine time, divinely inspired. Thank you, and so it is.
How could anyone ever tell you that you're anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you are less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply we're connected in our souls. How could anyone ever tell you that you are anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you are less than a whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply we're connected in our souls. How deeply we're connected in our souls.
Thank you, Karen. I now have the great pleasure of introducing Reverend Zemirah Jazwierska today. Many of you already know her. She has spoken several times at our center, and several times it was before she was a minister, and now she is a licensed minister. She is working as a special focus minister at Mile High Church and has been a school psychologist for 20 years and is presently working in the schools. Her passions in life are building interfaith bridges and also her healing bowls. She gifted us with her healing bowl ceremony one time, and that was so beautiful. I just feel so grateful to be able to call Reverend Zemirah my friend and my spiritual guide. Let's welcome Reverend Zemirah.
Happy Thanksgiving week, everyone. I'm Reverend Zemirah, and I am blessed to be here this morning, back here at Boulder Valley CSL. It is such a blessing to be with all of you, and I am talking about blessings this morning. The title of my talk is called Divine Waters, Receiving God's Blessings. And as I was preparing the talk, I came across this cartoon, and maybe you've seen it as well, where there's this young monk and he's sitting at the feet of his master in the Himalayas. And his master says, there's just one more task that lies between you and enlightenment. And then there's this cartoon below it where it shows the young monk sitting at the family holiday table. And he has such a look of disillusionment on his face because sitting next to him is the crying baby. And then there's grandma who's offering to knit him a hat to keep his head warm. And his brother's holding up a drink saying, there's only going to be one drink for me this holiday season. And his sister is yelling at the children who are continuing to fight. And when I saw that cartoon surface again, I thought to myself, this is a little bit of my experience of the year 2020. At the beginning of the year, I was certain I had a vision of how it was going to be filled with enlightening spiritual experiences. And it has turned out to be a year, while it does continue to have spiritually enlightened experiences, it also has been a year where I found myself sitting at the table of humanity and with so many distractions. There's the distractions and the fears and of the epidemic, and there's just so many things that have come across to prevent us from feeling deeply that sense of God's blessings this year. And so this morning, I would offer us this little space of refuge where we can explore together how to really feel and embody a sense of being immersed in the divine waters that are God's blessings. These blessings that are always available to us, that are all around us, and that it takes this awakening within our inner life so that we can feel spiritually nourished and supported. Ernest Holmes writes, "We are in a sea of untroubled waters in life, from which we can fully drink and freely drink. We must do the drinking. No one else can do it for us. We should hold out the cup of acceptance until it is filled and overflowing with the manifestations of our desires. This chalice of the heart is held up so that the heavenly flow may fill it with God's abundant life." So to drink more fully of God's blessings, today we're going to hold the chalice of the heart up together. And to begin with, I'd like to offer a few spiritual considerations to expand us into that feeling and that embodiment of the God's blessings. And the first one is to consider the container. To open ourselves to receive these blessings is to consider the consciousness of the container through which we're receiving. I love Louise Hay's visualization that she includes in her book, You Can Heal Your Life. Maybe you've read this New Thought classic. And in it, she has us imagine that we are standing at the seashore, looking out at the vast ocean, knowing that this abundance is available to us. And she asks us to look down at our hands and see what sort of container we're holding. Is it a teaspoon? Is it a glass? Maybe it's a thimble with a hole in it, a paper cup, a pitcher, a bucket, maybe even a wash tub. But perhaps it could even be a pipeline to this ocean of abundance. When I consider my consciousness in the container with which I'm considering the divine, I can tell the nature of it by how I've been feeling. When I check in, I check in with myself and I see what is my level of calm, my sense of serenity. And how reactive have I been in interacting with those I love or interacting with those at work or those around me, even those that I see in social media? And how supported do I feel? How held? How nurtured? What sense of well-being? How inspired have I been? How creative? With this, when I check in, I know the size of the container of my consciousness of receiving the blessings by how I've been experiencing my life. So we can expand and begin to expand more and more our containers by first becoming aware of our present perceptions of lack or scarcity and start to shift those into a consciousness of having and experiencing. Science of Mind minister and author Dennis Merritt Jones writes about this in his book, The Art of Being. He says, "Herein lies the paradox. If you want more of whatever it is that you desire, you have to first prove it to the universe that you're capable of having it by developing a consciousness that affirms there's no shortage of it. And the only way to do this is by creating a vacuum or a space for it to be received. And the only way you can create a space for it to be received is by letting go of what you do have, trusting that the universe knows what it is doing. This is the law of circulation and action. And to people enmeshed in the fear of not enough, this logic won't make any sense at all. So they cling and they hoard and they simply broadcast a message to the universe that they lack, to which the universe responds, "Let me help you prove that." But to a person who is established in a conscious awareness of his or her unity with the source of all good, it can be no clearer. Letting go is a prerequisite for receiving. And we can do this more easily when we trust the principle of abundance and the law of circulation in our life. And so I would ask you, What is it right now in your life that you could let go of to make space for something new, to make space for those divine blessings to be realized? I would say another way to begin to expand and consider the container is to begin to look for the good and praise it. As we begin to expand our consciousness and affirm the having of something, then we praise its existence. This is the same way that Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about in his book, Becoming Supernatural, where he talks about rehearsing your mind movie of your future self. You begin to play out this idea of yourself with all of your senses, feeling yourself in this picture of your future self, experiencing exactly that which is that you are calling in. And he says that if we immerse ourselves in these feelings of well-being, this feeling of having of the thing as if it already existed, then we begin to immerse ourselves in this gratitude. And by sustaining that feeling, we begin to create from a state of having rather than from a state of lack. So the second way that I'd like to explore this morning is to expand into God's blessings by dropping the anchor of your awareness in the spiritual world, in your inner world. 2020 has been masterful at anchoring us in the material world. Our limbic systems have become accustomed to the constant input of social media or the news or even the notifications on our phone, so much so that we're in a state of alert. And in this state of alertness, we get fully anchored in the material world. Sufi master Hazrat Inayat Khan says that our belief in God comes as tides in the sea, with an impulse to worship, to serve God, to search for God, to love God, and to long for God's communication. But he says the more the material life of the world is before one's eyes, the more the spiritual impulse is closed down. I know that when I become fully anchored my thoughts are anchored in the material world, the volume of my impulse to seek and be in devotion with my spiritual life, with my inner life, is turned down. I was talking with Karen in the preparing the music selections, and I told her that I kept hearing this song as I've been writing this talk, Madonna's song, I'm a material girl living in a material world. And I know it doesn't exactly go like that, but I just kept hearing that in my mind. And what I want to be singing so much of the time is, I'm a spiritual girl living in a material world. But isn't that the daily human experience? To be in this flux, perhaps even moment by moment, of placing our attention in the material world and pulling it back into the spiritual world. And so to begin to feel deeply blessed, we need to slow down and rest and take refuge in this inner world within ourselves, to give ourselves permission to take breaks, to reprogram our nervous system to feel safe and secure, at least for several moments every day. And to drop our anchors into those divine waters. Maybe sometimes as the day goes, it's just dipping a toe in. Maybe it's just sitting, inching to the side of the pool. But to feel and embody a sense of gratitude and a sense of blessing, I believe we have to often take the swim. To show up regardless of circumstance and regardless of our lack of showing up yesterday or in the moment before, to continue to show up and turn our attention to our inner life so that we can begin to receive that divine rain, since these waters, these spiritual waters, are always available. Neil Douglas Klotz provides insight into this as he looks at the story of Jesus from an Aramaic lens. Aramaic was the ancient Hebrew that Jesus, or Yeshua as he was known in Aramaic, that was the language that he spoke. And so when he puts on this lens of the Aramaic, he looks at the story of the Samaritan woman at the well. You know, when Yeshua was traveling to Samaria in the times, yet Samaria was not considered an acceptable place to be. To dine with, to spend time in Samaria was to breaking the Jewish rules at the time, it was considered unclean. But Yeshua was not anchored in the material world. He was fully anchored in the spiritual world, so he would travel to Samaria anyway to share his teachings. So when he gets to Samaria that day, he comes straight to the well and he encounters the woman from Samaria at the well. And he says to her, I can give you living water, water that can give you life energy, renewing energy at all levels of your being. It's known as Haidia Alma, renewable life energy. And she says, yes, please. Yes, where do I get this living water? What village do I have to go to? And what well is it contained in? And he says, no, this living water is in the words I'm speaking to you right now. Allaha, or spirit, is found in your breath. Allaha, or spirit, is found in your spirit. It's not found in what you do or in a place that you go. It is who you are. And essentially he's saying to her, turn your heart's compass back to source. Turn your heart's compass. Put your anchor in the divine waters within. Turn within. Put your focus on your breath and find God there. This is the living water in your life. And so she has to show up right where she is, right in that moment, no special place to go, just right there at the well, and turn her heart and her thoughts towards God. And that, no matter how mundane, how tedious, how irritating life has been, we can dive fully into this present moment while in the midst of these circumstances of life, opening to God's compassion, and activate that gentle receptivity. That's the living water of the divine. And finally, I offer that we receive God's blessings more fully by surrendering and opening, relaxing into divine presence. Teresa of Avila has been one of my great mentors and spiritual teachers. Her mystical writings just touch my soul. And in her autobiography, The Book of My Life, she likens her contemplative life to growing a garden. And I know I've shared this before in many of my talks and spiritual practices because it's so profoundly touching to me that she describes the fourth kind of prayer as being rain. Rain is God's grace. And this kind of prayer isn't something that is forced or engineered. It's not pleaded for or coerced in any way. It's the kind of prayer in which you put your hands in the air with praise and you surrender. You only have to raise your hand and say, I'm here. And this kind of prayer has the power to melt your personality small self into your awareness of your authentic essence of spirit, capital S, self. And so what are those spiritual practices that support you in lying down defensiveness, in suspending protections to take refuge in the divine? In his book, The Naked Now, Richard Rohr shares a story about how a group of monks train in what is known as consequentialist debate. And this is in Tibet. And over a period of 3 years, the young monks are presented with each and every one of Buddha's teachings. And during that time, the young monks have to name all the problematic and challenging consequences that would come about from following any one of those teachings. You can imagine how long that will take. And after each answer, the older monks and the other monks stand around and they circle and they clap their hands and they smile in response to the younger monks' sharings. And when they've exhausted all of the possible negative consequences, they move on to the potential positive ones, once again stating all of the positive effects that would result from following each teaching. This goes on and on, no matter how many days or hours, months it takes. And again, the more experienced monks stand around and they clap and they cheer, no matter what the younger monks say. And in this way, they begin to train the mind to be spacious. There's no good or bad answer. There's no right or wrong way to respond. There's no winning or losing. And in doing so, they practice this non-polarity of thought. It supports them in training the ability of discernment, the ability for a broad reflection on things. And it creates this open field from which they can advise themselves and others. The only way they can lose the debate is to stop smiling, stop practicing that neutrality of thought. So obviously this is a practice in loosening the ego and letting go of attachments to one way or another. And it opens the spaciousness to the Buddhist teachings, to be open and surrendered to what is in any given moment. And so I would invite us to consider today that you open and you surrender by purposefully building periods of surrender or stillness into your days. Practice gazing through the eyes of love at what is and broadening that respectful, responsive viewing of things. And so spaces of refuge can look like formal meditation, but they can also look like following your breath from one breath to the next. So this morning I'm going to close by inviting you into a space of meditation with the crystal bowls. Many of you know that I practice sound healing through the alchemy crystal bowls. And the way this came about actually was initiated during Thanksgiving or holiday times in my family when I was a little girl. My dad would take these crystal goblets that my grandmother always had on the table. She always presented the most beautiful holiday spread. And he would take those crystal goblets after dinner and he would wet his finger in the water and he would begin to play the crystal goblet. And that sound, that ethereal sound, would wash over us. He would fill each one with different varying levels of water so they would have different tones and different notes. Well, many years later, when I came across the crystal bowls, it resonated within me, that same crystal tone, that time where we would let go, we would surrender after our holiday dinner into a space of just being, just listening, just experiencing those sounds. And so this morning, I would invite you into the same, and may you open to receive and swim in the divine waters, receiving even embodying a sense of God's blessings more and more as you enter into this holiday season.
dreamed of rain, the rains came, soft and easy, sweet and clear. I dreamed of rain, and the rains came, and peace spread over the land. I dreamed of rain, the rains came, soft and easy, sweet and clear. I dreamed of rain, and the rains came, and peace spread over the land. I dreamed of summer, and the winds changed, and the green was easy, the rivers were clear. I dreamed of summer, and the winds changed, and peace spread over the land. And the flowers bloomed in the desert, and the air, it was soft and clear. I dreamed of rain, and the rains came, and peace spread over the land. I dreamed of heaven, and the earth sang, and the sound was easy, sweet and clear. I dreamed of heaven, and the earth sang, and peace spread over the land. And the guiding stars surrounded us, and the air was soft and clear. I dreamed of heaven, and the earth sang, and peace spread over the land. I dreamed of rain, and the rains came, soft and easy, sweet and clear. I dreamed of rain, and the rains came, and peace spread over this land.
And now is our time for our offering. We come together to celebrate our community and the entire world here at the Center for Spiritual Living Boulder Valley. And I invite you to pledge your support and give generously to our organization so that we can continue taking this great message out into the world. So it's a home for many of us, and it's a home for many people that may not even know about us yet. And that's what we want to build here. So I love the tagline here, which simply says, "Love lives here." So please take your, either the energy, or if you have a check, please put your energy to your heart. The heart is a gateway of the divine flowing through us. And join with me our affirmation. This perfect gift is spirit in form, circulating and blessing all that it touches. Freely I give and joyously I receive. And so it is. Thank you so much for giving to this wonderful organization. So we have a lot going on here at the Center for Spiritual Living Boulder Valley. There's a lot of activity behind the scenes. But this week we have one announcement that we would really love to invite you to our Thanksgiving service. And truly, it's a service about Thanksgiving. I got to tell you, the music is unbelievable. There's 5 songs. There's Karen Karsh with her friend Susan. Amazing music, and a couple of little sermonettes by yours truly in between, and our wonderful practitioners. 7 o'clock Tuesday night, November 24th. And we decided to do it on the 24th, Tuesday, so you all could be with your families on Wednesday night and cook and do what you're going to do for Thanksgiving. It's all about us being together. So please join us 7 o'clock Tuesday night for our Thanksgiving service. And in the meantime, go to our newsletter and see what else is going on. Thanks so much.
I want to thank Reverend Zemirah for that wonderful talk. And I want to thank everyone who helped make this service possible, including all of you listening right now. I wanted to remind you that we have a watch party right after the service on Sunday mornings where community members get together just to talk. And this Sunday we have a very special time at 11:30 after our community talk to invite our new senior minister, who starts on December 1st, Reverend Jody. Please join us to ask any questions you have of her, to get to know her better, and to help her get to know you better. And I also wanted to remind you that the practitioners are available for prayer. You can find their phone numbers and their email addresses on our website. So at any time that you feel you need prayer, then reach out to them and they can get back to you.
So that's it for our wonderful service today. I want you to know how thankful we are that you're a part of our community. And this week especially, we give thanks, but every week and every day and every minute and actually every second, we give thanks for our spiritual tribe. I think it's one of the most important things that we can allow in our own lives is to have a spiritual community that we can go to, and they can celebrate us for all of our successes and be there during the tough times and study and giggle and laugh and play and cry and do all the things that we do as human beings together. I want you to know that I am so grateful for your board of trustees. Gosh, we have so much fun. We giggle a lot, but somehow we get things done. So I thank the board of trustees, the members, you all are working so hard, and the wonderful practitioners and our speakers and our musicians. And gosh, I am so grateful, and I love you all dearly. Stay healthy this week. Please wear your mask. Listen to the scientists. And I'll see you next week. I'm looking forward to it. Have a great Thanksgiving. Bye now.
It is now time for us to say our benediction.
I now walk so that whoever walks beside me dwells in the presence of God. I now listen so that whoever speaks with me knows that I hear the voice of God. Whoever places a hand in mine is lifted, and whoever thinks of me is illumined with God consciousness. For Spirit and I are one eternally, and so it is. All right. Here we go. Hang on. Light up the world lights up the sky. With your love, you can soar and you can fly. Shine your light on everyone you see. Light up the world, it's there for you and me. All you gotta do is feel that little spark inside. Fan the flame and let that blaze ignite. Light up the world with kindness and with grace. Share that light, share it with the whole human race. Light up the world, you'll be amazed at what you see. A world that works for everyone, you and me. Light it up the world with love. Light it up the world with joy. Light up the world with peace. Light up the world.
Original music written and performed by Karen Karsh. Copyright held by Karen Karsh Crystal Music. All rights reserved.
Lovely